Welcome to the Metal Prognosis. My name is Lee, and on today's Pedal to the Metal, we're going to be looking at the Joyo Ironman, which this pedal is based on the distortion from the Joyo Boogie Rectifier amplifier. Whoops, if I can get it out. So, it's well packaged because there's lots of little foam in that to keep it all in. It looks tiny. And get rid of this plastic thing. I don't think we need that at the moment. So we have a tiny little thing here. And on first sight, you think it's just a button. But it's got a little lid thing. And we have a tone, drive, volume, and voice. So yeah, keen to see how this is going to sound. There's been a few little pedals done for the Joyo Boogie Rectifier amplifier. I love that ring. It's got a real nice rhythm to it when you say it. So I'm definitely keen to hear how this one's going to sound. Now, as we have found out in the past, it's tiny, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be powerful. The way how things have moved and evolved, some small ones can have a hell of a punch to them. So I'm definitely going to be open-minded about that when we turn this on and check it out. So like all my pedal to the metal videos, we'll put a camera to this and we'll dial in a tone together and I'll talk through my thoughts. Then I'll see what that inspires me to kind of compose and record. Then I will record what I compose and film it so I can share it with you all. And I'll do it in a full band mix with doubling up of the guitars, one on the left, one on the right speaker, and add bass and drums to it so we can hear what it sounds like in a full band mix as well. Because I feel like that's the best test for these pedals, not just to listen to them turned on by themselves, isolated, but when they're with an accompanying other bunch of musos. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing that, and then we'll have a chat about it afterwards. And hopefully it'll be really good chats. So let me set this up with the Boogie Master, or what's this series called? The Ironman. So the Joyo Ironman. All right, now we nearly have everything set up. This is slightly different compared to how I normally do my pedal to the metal videos. So this being an amplifier simulator, not just a distortion pedal, what I normally do is, I'll quickly show you, is I normally have an amp simulator on the computer ready to go to help boost the signal and to give it that characteristics like a real one. Here's one I prepared earlier. So let me just close this down because we're not using that today because we're doing everything straight from the pedal. So now if I try to show you, where's my pick, what the clean sounds like, we're getting very little signal because we don't have that amplifier amplifying the sound, which is in the title of what it does. So in theory, this pedal should do that. So what I'm going to do is, I've had to zoom in a bit on my camera here, so my fingers and thumbs are going to look huge, but they're not that big in real life, I assure you. Put the drive all the way down and the voicing, just leave the tone there, and we have a light. We have success. But no sound. I don't know why I need to finish that phrase as a player, but I did. So if we add a bit of drive, just like on a normal amp, we get something. Let me turn the volume up a bit. So we have tone, drive, volume, and voice. So the volume's cranked. Let's get more drive. We should just stop there and I should do the jam, really. Super weird. I need to explore more, but if I did, I think I'd be happy with that. No, we could do better. So let's test out the tone. Let's see how the tone reacts. Sounds like I just put a blanket over the mix. Sorry, it started doing a bit of squealing. So anything above there, it squeaks. Not normally a problem I've ever had dealing with pedals before in this type of controlled environment. So that's new. But the question is, with the tone turned up higher, is the sound not so much good enough, but is it that good that you'd want to cater around that little squealing frequency that pops through? Because if it is that wow, then yeah, you'd, as an engineer, you'd want to work around that squeak because you want that best distortion sound that you can get. So bear with me, I'm going to do the squeak thing again, but I'll try to turn off my guitar so you don't hear it. It is good. It is. My initial thoughts is it is a bit better, but I don't think it's wow enough where I want to alter everything to make it work. So let's try his voice now. That's different. But I'm not going to get too distracted by that. All right, so the voicing has the same hurdle that you got to jump, where with this setup, with the pickups and how hard I'm pushing that, because I got the volume pushed at full. So I'll roll back a little bit on the volume. Oh, tone still does a squeaky thing, but the voice doesn't as much. It does, but it just changed where the sensitivity starts and finishes. Aren't you following? That's sounding really good. Don't know if I really want to touch anything more because I'm pushing the volume so high, because it's going directly into the computer, so I'm not getting that much of any further assistance in amplifying it. So I don't want to turn it down any low because otherwise I'm going to get just too lost. But if I turn it up any higher and I'm mucking around with the tone and the voicing too much, we get that squeal. Even it's a weird squeal too, because the squeal comes through in a really low volume. Where if that squeal came through on an amplifier or through a PA system, or front of house, you'd blow your ears. Not physically blow them, but you'd definitely hurt your ears. It would be that loud. So a worst case scenario where we did get squeak was nowhere near bad with this little cute little device, which is really good. I like the two lights too. I like the case, so it's like if you are playing it live, you're not going to accidentally kick them. Oh, that's cool. So if you turn it off, the lights go off, but the light goes see-through, so you can see when the logo light's off, if you're playing live, if you've got it engaged or not. That's pretty good. Open it back up so you can see the settings. Yeah, it's a cool little feature. I like that. Yeah, it's a pretty cool little powerful unit. But I'm going to save those for the final thoughts, have a little bit more of a in-depth chat about it. I might leave the settings there. Actually, let me just check one more time. I am going to leave the settings there. So I'm going to take a step away from the camera just for a moment, write a little song or a little jingle, record it, and I'll put it in a little Brady Bunch setup with all the different squares and share it with you all. Then we'll come back and have a chat about it with my final thoughts. So yeah, sit back, relax, and in about 5 seconds, you'll hear the song and hopefully really, really enjoy it. And I'll see you all on the other side. Time for my final thoughts on the little Ironman Mesa Boogie Rectifier Amplifier Simulator. It's a long title, but that's what it is. I mean, it's very well constructed. This would definitely survive the live scene if you took it out to play live. And having the little the lid is brilliant, so you don't accidentally step on those tiny little knobs or not just step on them and break them, but also like slip on them and change the settings. Because as we saw, some of these can be pretty sensitive, and if you pushed them over that line just a little bit, your rig could be squealing and making all sorts of noise that no one's going to enjoy, especially the sound engineer. So firstly, there's a few things I want to talk about with this. Firstly is the size. Size doesn't matter. But just to give you a comparison, I have another Joyo pedal here, the UZI, and that's a size difference. So when I say it's tiny, I don't just have huge, massive hands. No, it is actually tiny in comparison to other pedals. But as we both heard, but hopefully both on the same page, it definitely had a really nice punch to it. So let me go through all the little dials first, and then we'll delve a little bit more into it after that. So firstly, actually we can't really, need to go back a bit. So this being an amp simulator, does a really good job of actually simulating an amp, where once you push things too high, things started getting squeaky and things started getting a little bit fragile, which as a pedal is a little bit frustrating because like when I'm using something like this, I like to go extreme with the dials to see what tones that I can get. But in reality, if I were to do that to an actual amp head here, let's see if I can move it over a bit more in the camera. If I were to do that and just go crazy, 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 well, yeah, things are going to start squealing and getting lots of feedback and unwanted noise, and no one's going to have a good time. So the fact that that has these type of elements to it, I think is pretty cool. I see that as a positive thing, where it's just hard to get your head around at the start that this is not a distortion pedal. It is, but it isn't. But how you treat it needs to be like getting distortion straight off an amp, not off a pedal like this. Not the hardest thing to get over, but yeah, definitely something you need to be conscious about while you're doing it. Which at first I wasn't, and I was just pushing them, and then as we all experienced together, we had that little bit of a squeaky sound coming through. So in saying that, then I had to put this straight into the studio, which I do for all my pedal to the metal videos. But if you wanted to use this for live or for rehearsing, to use it with a live setup, say with an amp and speakers like this, to get it nice and loud, to capture the distortion that this has, not so much just that this has, but the distortion from a rectifier amplifier rather than the distortion this has to offer, you wouldn't actually, not that you wouldn't, I would recommend that you don't plug it straight into the input like you would with these distortion pedals and 99.9 other distortion pedals that you use, where you go guitar in here, and actually it would be guitar in this way, come out this way and straight into the amp. That's a big no-no. What you'd do is you'd go into here and you would go from in the back, where are they? Yeah, the effects send and return. So you'd be plugging this from in and out into the send and return feature of this amp. Why do you do that? I'll explain why you do that. So these amplifiers are really cool, and the majority of amplifiers, especially modern ones, all have this feature of the effects loop, what it's called. So what the effects loop does is it bypasses all of this section here. So you're not going to clash with any of its characteristics. So then you equivalently just turn this into, what's the right term without getting confused in what it's actually called to what it can do. So this turns into just a device that's going to make this louder, rather than using it as, even though amplifier, the definition of is it to make it louder, but I'm using the term amplifier as in this device as a whole and everything and all its characteristics that it has involved. I'm getting myself in kind of a technical tangle here, but that's okay. We'll get through this together. We'll get through this. So you'd want to go straight into the effects loop to bypass its characteristics and just use it to make this louder. Because this is absolutely nowhere near enough to make these speakers loud enough to be heard. You need something to be able to amplify it. So hopefully that makes sense. Because if you went straight into let me just say this again for any one that's never done this before. If you send this into the back with two cables, one for the send, one for the return, then you'd plug your guitar in normally, just straight in the front here. And then the guitar will skip all that funky section there that makes this amp what it is, and just go straight off this little pedal here. Bum, ba, bum, and then you'd be using those settings there instead of those there. Hopefully that makes sense. And I'll put that little bad beast back up there. Hopefully it's still in camera frame. So that's how you'd use it if you want to do it live off a band rehearsal or rehearsing or whatever else you want to do. I'll just be loud in general, which is always fun when playing guitar. So in saying that, let me go through all these different dials, which is what I normally do straight off the bat with these. But for this, I just got a lot more to say compared to other pedals I've used. So the tone wasn't too bad. Once again, though, because we had everything pushed up pretty high with the volume, and going back to what I was saying before, if you did send it through here to use it as I recommended, the volume would nowhere near be as pushed as high as what I would, because you'd have the volume of the output of this amp amplifying it, not 100% revolving off this, which is what we did today, running it through the studio. So because I pushed it so hard, everything else became pretty sensitive. Not overly sensitive where we couldn't work with it, because I felt like we still came up with a really cool distortion sound. But it definitely made it touchy with the tone and the voicing. So what the voicing was on this, from what I gather, it's a mid boost. So it gets the mid frequencies, so you've got your bass, your mid and trebles, and gives just the mids a bit of a boost, which is something I love in my guitar tones. So the fact that I got to push it as hard as what I did really made me happy, because without it, it would have made the sound a little bit too flat, and it would take away a little bit of the aggression. The aggression that I like in a distortion sound anyway. So it was really cool that we got to do it. The drive, we pushed that to the max. If you were to plug this through a setup like this, my theory is you probably wouldn't have to drive, I was going to say drive the drive. You wouldn't, that's not the best way on how to describe this. You wouldn't have to push the drive knob or element or aspect of it as hard as what we did today, because your speakers and the amp would react slightly differently to it. So you shouldn't, don't know if you wouldn't, but I'm speculating. You shouldn't have to push it as hard as what we did. But as soon as I pushed it to its max, it did give us a little bit of a kick up at the very end, which I always love when pedals do that, when you have like a curve that goes like that. But at the very end, when you push it to the max, it gives you just that little bit more of a boost. So actually dialing it to the max is not so much better, but it gives you that extra options and an extra little plateau just to lay on. So it was very cool that we got to do that and utilize it from here. When I had the drive dialed back, the drive being the equivalent of gain, like what we have on this amp here, it still sounded good. It still sounded fine, but I just like distortion, and I like to push as much as I can with as much clarity as I can before it starts to break up, which I think we had a little bit here with I think with the tone and the voice. When I pushed it, it broke it up just a little bit, not overly, but just enough where it wasn't worth fighting all that squealy noise for the results that we're getting. So yeah, the song I decided to play was a song I wrote many moons ago now, and I recorded with my band Shadows at Bass. I'll leave a link in the description so you can hear the original one of that if you'd like to compare them to see how it sounds. But I felt like as soon as I had that sound and I started playing with the Jackson, that song just naturally came out. And I felt like it really fitted in nicely, especially with the little lead melody over it in that, what normally is in the song, the verse, I felt really worked really well with each other. So what we dialed in here worked well for rhythm and for lead. Not so much just rhythm and lead, but it worked really good with the chords that I was playing and playing notes that were higher register on the guitar. Because sometimes, more times than not, when you come up with a distortion tone or effect, something has to give. So sometimes a rhythm would sound great while you're playing and chugging along, but when you try to play something up high, it sounds like mush. Or vice versa, you come up with a great that sounds like a great lead patch, for lack of a better term, where the leads and all your soloing sounds phenomenal, but as soon as you start playing some rhythm, it sounds a bit like rubbish. And that's extremely common, to the point where equipment now caters for it. So when we're using single pedals like this, we don't really have much of a choice, because some pedals do, but let me use this one for an example, where you have an on-off. That's it. Where if you're running it through, say, for this amp, as an example, it gives you 2 channels with 2 different gains on there. So you can set one distortion for your lead work when you're playing that, and another distortion for when you're just playing your rhythm. So you don't have to swap and change and muck around. And there are some pedals that do that are pretty cool. But with what we got to work with when I did work with this UZI pedal, and with today working with the Ironman, based off the Mesa Boogie Rectifier amplifier, that's what we had to work with. And we did. That's what we worked with. Now, that is a lot of me babbling on. And I could probably go on a little bit more. But I will conclude my thoughts, my independent thoughts, with this, to say that it didn't take much to get an actual good distortion tone where I was like, that's sounding pumping. And all the rest pretty much after that was a bit of gravy, just tweaking and, middling a little bit with the different knobs to try improve it a little bit. Instead of normally where I'd get something and I'd start to hear it and then would have to work, let's say 80% more to try and get to the sound where I got, where this time I felt like I got to the 80% straight away, and it was just tweaking for that extra 10% there to get to where we needed to before I could start recording the song. So that's pretty cool. So all in all, I'm definitely pleasantly surprised by this pedal. But as we all know with this channel and with these pedal to the metal videos, this is only half of it. The next half comes down to you. What were your thoughts? How did you feel as I was dialing in the tone here? Do you think I got it too quickly and I should have spent more time on it? Or do you think I over-engineered it and overthought it and put too much into it, where I got something that would have worked better a lot sooner than what I ended up with? How did you feel when it was in the mix? How did you feel when it added drums and bass? How did you feel the little melody part that put over the chords? Did you think that sat nicely, or do you think they were too different? And if you were the engineer, or you had a choice in what comes and what goes, would you have kept that in there, or would you have thought, no, for the lead part we might need something like this or something different to make it pop out more, because it doesn't work for both of these, or change the settings on these, one for the lead, one for the rhythm? What are your thoughts on that? And what do you think of these little designs compared to these more larger ones? Let me know all your thoughts. I want to know more. I'll listen. I'm patient. Doesn't really sound like it in the video sometimes, because I do most of the talking. But I definitely love reading the comments and having these conversations with you. So yeah, definitely leave a message down below on any of those things that I asked, or all of them. All of them would absolutely make my day. But any of them I'd be absolutely happy with. Or if you're a little bit too shy and just enjoy being a part of this conversation, that is absolutely no problem as well. You're under no pressure at all to have to give me me and anyone else reading these your opinion. You can just enjoy it and be happy. That's fine. So with that, I'll do my usual sign off because I think I've starting to outstay my welcome talking about this, which I definitely don't want to do. So whether this video is in the foreground or the background, I absolutely appreciate your company and being a part of this conversation with me in regards to heavy metal gear and guitar tones with these pedal to the metal videos. If you have any ideas of what you want me to do with either this pedal or other ones, like for example, if you do want me to hook it up to an amp to see how that relationship works or anything else, please let me know either in the comments below, or I do have a Facebook page that I'll put a link in the description below that you can check out and talk to me there, or go there and like it and get updates via Facebook if that's easier compared to trying to get Facebooks on YouTube. Whatever's easier for you. I'll do it all just for the fun of it to make sure you don't miss any of it. If you haven't subscribed, please do so you can keep up to date with all my videos I put out, because I try to put out a couple of videos a week, if not more when I've got the time. If you know anyone that might be interested in these type of conversations and enjoy talking about gear and different type of pedals and just, I just like hearing heavy metal riffs or someone doodling on guitar for a while, please let them know that my channel exists and push them towards my way so we can really help this channel grow and become more than what it is. So I look forward to hearing from you if I do, and I look forward to seeing you next time as well. So until next time, please stay safe.